let's get back to the storytelling. Awesome. Your next storyteller coming to the stage is also a superhuman and blowing up the scene. Super excited to hear what she has to say. You're going to love her just as much as I do. Warm welcome for Lucia Fasano, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Joanne, and that is a thing. Okay. And thank you, Becky, for sharing that story. I'm incredibly touched and incredibly glad that I didn't go there with my story. Just because I couldn't take it. I couldn't present myself to you all right now. Very touched. My family's thing too is that their biggest crime is that they love each other so much and they hate each other so much. They love me so much that it's sometimes overpowering or sometimes cripplingly depressing for them. They just love me so much. Like the other day, my therapist said to me, "How are you sane?" And then the psychiatrist said to me when I told him something that my parents had said to me the other day, he said, "That's like a cartoon of what we tell parents not to say to their children." That's kind of what I'm working with, because they love me so much. And I love my mom. She's almost a cartoon in some ways because people don't believe that she exists. I'll explain in my story. I grew up watching Bewitched, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Shows like that, even the most cartoonish, such as Sailor Moon or Kiki's Delivery Service, were where I felt most represented. I didn't have any special powers or talking cat, but I was raised Wiccan and was a self-identified tarot card carrying witch. My mom, my high priestess, would laugh and show me on Bewitched when Samantha and Darren would get spied on by their voyeuristic and hysterical neighbor, Gladys. "Agnes! Agnes!" she'd shout to her husband as she watched Samantha wriggle her nose and do some spell. Times haven't changed much, I felt. Each solstice, when my mom, brother, and I would light a bonfire in our cauldron in our sad excuse for a yard in our brown and beige condo complex in Chatsworth, California, I'd look up at the window of the conjoined condo neighbor, and sure enough, an old lady would be peering out at us, surely afraid for her life. Years later, and I still feel like a witch, only I've honed some different powers. I've been told that I can cheer people up just with my presence or make them cry from a song I wrote. Besides my poor eyesight and thick thighs, I could have made it through school without incident, just celebrating Christmas and Easter and not feeling so misunderstood at times. But my childhood was magical. Having a high priestess for a mother gave me an unconventional childhood at times. What could go from asking for help on my 4th grade paper about the California missions would turn into a screed on how the missionaries destroyed the culture of the Native Americans, gave them all diseases, and enslaved them with their patriarchal colonialist ways. I didn't get a very good grade on that paper. I hardly mentioned maize or animal fat candles. I had a bit of a self-righteous indignation as holidays would come along and schools would talk about Easter and Christmas and Halloween, Samhain, without discussing their pagan roots at all. In 3rd grade, I wrote a story about a young pagan witch girl who cleansed her crystals and swept out evil spirits with her broomstick. Much to my dismay, the teacher's aide had corrected, and by corrected I mean crossed out and changed with marker, the word pagan to penguin. There were quite a few misunderstandings that came along with being a 21st century witch. My mother is an English professor and has dedicated much of her life to the study of Edgar Allan Poe. One October, she volunteered to come teach my middle school class about Poe and do a reading, a very apropos thing to do for the 7th grade. That's her pun. I've heard it a lot. My mother with her Roman nose and long raven black hair, came dressed in a black Renaissance dress with a Halloween pail filled with chocolate, armed with ever so corrupting flashlights. She arrived at the school and my emotions were mixed, nervous, embarrassed, as any child is watching their parent trounce onto campus, but I was mostly filled with pride. My mom was here to bring magic to the school. Unfortunately, the other parents did not see it as the magic of literature. She began her lecture. The classroom was dark, and each of my classmates had a flashlight shined on their face like they were around a campfire. My mom read the poems and stories aloud, just like they're supposed to be, chilling and thrilling. My classmates were absolutely loving it, being rewarded with Halloween candy for trivia and participation. Meanwhile, outside in the hallway, there was the murmuring of muggles. I went into the hallway. The principal, friend of the family, said that the evangelical Christian mother of one of my classmates was trying to have my mom's visit shut down. She said that my mom was teaching Satanism to the kids. I'd like to think that my mom is that metal, but she's more of a CBGB's era punk rock. Beelzebub was a far cry from her list of hobbies and pals. These protestations sickened me. Not only are the major tenets of Wicca that my mom instilled in me since I was a kid, to be kind and good to every creature in nature, but also this wasn't related to her spirituality at all. This was related to Mr. Edgar A. Poe, and my mom was beyond qualified to teach it. I was angered, distressed, and anxious, but my principal stood up for my mom as she was busy riveting the class about the tolling of the bells and the incessant beating heart. It didn't throw her off one bit as the mean muggle mom plucked her daughter from my classroom and I'm sure tore the devil's candy she'd received from her hands and threw it in the trash. And I realized how thankful I was that my mom was the one up there, sharing her love for art, mystery, the macabre, and chocolate, that she would never keep me from something, censor me, or even shame me for eating candy, that she would accept me whether I was a muggle or not, even if my answer to the question, are you a good witch or a bad witch, was, I'm not a witch at all. Thanks, everybody.
Lucia Fasano, ladies and gentlemen.